Today we are talking about something that may surprise you, the benefits of buying a property at auction from a buyer's perspective. I get a lot of people complaining about auctions, so I thought that I could create a podcast just trying to explain the many untold benefits of an auction for a buyer. Auctions are often seen as high pressure environments that favour sellers, but if you know what you're doing, they can actually provide some significant advantages for buyers too. In this episode, I'll share insights into how auctions can work in your favour, backed by data and evidence from CoreLogic and Domain, and touch on some scenarios where you might even snag a bargain. Now, firstly, the transparency of the buying process is the first benefit. One of the biggest advantages of buying at auction is the transparency of the process. Where the negotiation happens behind closed doors, everything at an auction is conducted out in the open. This means you can see exactly who your competition is and know the price you're up against. This is a massive benefit. I remember when I was selling houses back a while ago, and the private negotiations would often cause a lot of issues because people don't necessarily trust real estate agents at the best of times. If you do have people that come up with offers and different scenarios that seem like they're made up, it's very difficult to understand whether they're real or not. For example, if you place an offer in on a property that you're really keen on, and then suddenly another buyer is interested and places an offer higher, and the agent comes back to you asking for more, how do you know if it's true or not? And it's very difficult. There are some ways to try and ascertain whether the truth is being told, but it's still very difficult, and that lack of transparency is extremely frustrating for people and could cost them a lot of money if they're ultimately bidding against themselves. According to CoreLogic's auction market review, this transparency can reduce the risk of overpaying because you're actually basing your bids on live data and you can actually see the other people that are there. So it gives you more confidence to know what's going on. Again, during that private sale, you might be bidding blind or falling prey to inflated pricing tactics. So at an auction, the bidding process is visible to everyone, so you can get a clearer sense of the market value of the property. That's why a lot of banks will take an auction price as opposed to actually coming out and valuing the property, because it has been taken to market in a transparent process. Benefit number 2, setting a hard limit on your budget. At auctions, buyers often find it easier to set and stick to a maximum budget. Now, this may be contentious, but the reality is when you go to an auction, most people, if they're well organised, have planned a maximum budget and they know where they should be bidding up to or there and abouts. I understand it's quite hard to always stick to that, but at least they've had to think about it, and it's a lot easier than to know whereabouts you're sitting and there's been deeper thought. So this is crucial for keeping your emotions in check and avoiding overextending financially. In a private sale, negotiations can be dragged out over weeks, allowing time for doubt, overbidding pressure to creep in, and just naturally being pulled up slowly, and suddenly you're $100,000 higher than you were at the start. But because time has passed, the situation is framed differently in your mind, and you're just moving up a little bit. Whereas in an auction, yes, you can bid up quite quickly, and those without limits or without a budget can lose control and bid up to a crazy price. But at least they should have, if they've done it right, they've been able to set a limit before the auction and have put thought into it. A Domain report on auction strategies highlights the auction can actually reduce buyer remorse as they push buyers to establish a hard limit beforehand. Buyers often enter the auction room with a specific maximum price, making it easier to avoid getting swept up in emotions and staying disciplined when the bidding heats up. Now, I understand people might disagree with that, because the whole purpose of an auction is that you are brought into an emotional environment where you bid higher, but often, especially for my clients, it's an opportunity for us to have great thought put into the pricing and the budget that we will be willing to go up to on the auction day, and then we execute on this. So the real benefit that I'm trying to tell you here is that the ability to set a limit at an auction is much more front of mind for people, and it's a good opportunity to be able to not have the extended period of ongoing thought. It all happens quite quickly at an auction. So you have your limit, you stick to that budget, and then afterwards you know that you've made more of a logical decision, as opposed to something that drags out for quite a while like a private sale, and emotions throughout the day, throughout the weeks can fluctuate and cause you to pay quite a high price as well. And I know that goes both ways, but I think that the auction presents that opportunity, as a lot of people know they need to set a budget for the D-Day. Now, benefit number 3, immediate results and less uncertainty. Another major benefit of auctions is that immediate result. If you're the highest bidder and the reserve price is met, the property is yours. There's no back and forth negotiations. There's not normally any conditions. There's no waiting days to see if your offer has been accepted or if another buyer has swooped in with a higher bid behind closed doors. And CoreLogic's data shows that this certainty is a key advantage for buyers. With private treaty sales, it's not uncommon to have conditional contracts fall through, leading to wasted time and resources. Auctions eliminate much of this uncertainty, providing clarity and a definite outcome on the day. I know people that have really defined time frames really value this part of the process. If you've already sold and you need a house, then going to an auction, you know that you can pay your 5 or 10% deposit on the day, and you've got an unconditional contract in which you've locked away a property to move on to the next step. And this is a major benefit for sellers as well, and that's why many people do use an auction process. A lesser known benefit of auctions is the potential to buy a property below market value when the pressure is on for the owner to sell. Now, sellers may have various reasons for needing a quick sale, and that could be financial distress, needing to settle on another property, or being under pressure from lenders. When these sellers go to auction, they might set a lower reserve price to ensure the property sells on the day, creating an opportunity for savvy buyers to secure a bargain. CoreLogic's analysis of auction clearance rates showed that during periods of higher than usual auction volumes, properties sometimes sell for less than anticipated due to a lower number of active bidders, which is common sense. For example, if a property has been sitting on the market for a while and the seller is motivated to offload it, the urgency can push them to accept a lower price at auction than they would in a private negotiation. This is particularly true during periods of rising interest rates or cooling markets where buyer sentiment is more cautious and there's lots of competition. If we're looking at the real estate market at the moment, we know that there are a lot of sellers out there that are hoping for a price and they're not quite getting that price. And the reality of the way that sales works is that you either, from the owner's point of view, you are motivated to sell. An additional factor is that the agent as well is also keen to make a commission. So they will tend to apply some pressure as well, because they know that there may not be another buyer that comes along that pays the same price, or they may just be looking to get a quick sale and not necessarily looking at the best interests of the owners. So there's that additional pressure that if you have been in a position where you are selling your home and you're not getting the bids on auction day that you would like, but someone is keen for the property, you would have felt the pressure of someone coming inside to negotiate with you and offering you quite a low figure. And that low figure sometimes is too far away and you have the opportunity to say no, but sometimes that figure can be tempting in negotiating on the day because you want to rip the band-aid off and sell it, or that you need to sell it, or the agent as well is putting some pressure on you to consider and come to the table with a lower figure than what your reserve originally was on the day. Whether rightly or wrongly, that does occur, and that's a reality of the way that real estate sales works. And I guess the reason why that is a grey area, just as a quick interlude, would be that sometimes the owner's price can be reasonable, sometimes unreasonable. So you have situations where buyers didn't turn up, so maybe the best opportunity is to put it back on the market with an asking price. But then there's other times where the price was already way too high, it's too far from the market, so letting it sit on the market for another few months at a high price is going to be a waste of time, and the owners may need to consider something more towards market value, or they just can wait out the few extra months and then do the same thing later, which doesn't work very well in a falling market. But in a rising market, sometimes those people that sit around for a few months eventually get caught and they are able to sell their property. Benefit number 5 is when auctions are not at the best time and the crowds are smaller and the competition is less. While auctions are often associated with high competition, this is not always the case. So in softer markets, fewer bidders means less competition. If you come prepared with a clear strategy and understanding of the property's value, you can leverage this to your advantage. Now, Domain's research suggests the timing of the auction is crucial. If you can identify properties being auctioned at non-peak times or during holiday periods, the lack of bidders can work in your favour. In these scenarios, you might face only 1 or 2 other serious buyers, which can give you the upper hand to negotiate more confidently. Now, I've been to multiple auctions where the turnout was horrible, and sometimes that can just be for weather, but if the timing of the auction's off and it is school holidays, a lot of people are away, that buzz that you get at a busy auction disappears, and you do find that you're often able to negotiate a lot more easily, because without that competition, the owners know that they're more on the back foot. The agent knows they're more on the back foot as well, so it puts you in a much stronger negotiation position if the property does pass in. A key feature of auctions is that contracts are typically unconditional. While this might sound like a downside at first because you can add clauses for finance or building inspections, it actually removes a lot of the uncertainty for buyers. By the time you walk to the auction or you're at the auction, you've done your due diligence, building inspections, finance checks and contract reviews. This means you know exactly what you're bidding on and can move forward with confidence if you're successful. In contrast with private sales, surprises can arise post-offer, such as building defects or financing issues, which can derail the deal or lead to renegotiations. By buying at auction, you've already navigated through these potential pitfalls before raising your hand. So it's basically just a great way to be ready in a quicker time frame, and that uncertainty that comes along with many purchases, private sale, that disappears and you're able to move forward with confidence and get everything done in a tighter time frame and move forward. And so the last benefit, even if you don't win the auction under the hammer, auctions can still work to your advantage. If a property is passed in, meaning it doesn't sell at the auction, the highest bidder is usually given the first right to negotiate with the seller afterwards. This can be a powerful position if the property is passed in below the reserve price, as the seller is more often willing to negotiate and potentially lower their expectations. And this is what I was alluding to before. A property without much interest after an auction puts you in a much stronger position to negotiate. This compared to private sales, where if the property passes through the sale by set date, or if it's just on the market for a couple of months, it's not as easy necessarily to negotiate, because the sellers in that regard are normally not as much in a rush to sell the property. Otherwise, they would have normally done an auction, or they would have more of a reasonable price, meaning it would have sold more quickly. So at an auction, once you do turn up and auction day's there and there's not many people there and you pass the property in under the reserve price, it gives you a wonderful opportunity to take a powerful position to be able to negotiate. There is a balance when it comes to this. You don't want to be too greedy and miss out on the property by completely lowballing and not being in the realms of market value whatsoever. But look, it's a case-by-case basis to see what is appropriate. Sometimes the reserve price is reasonable, sometimes it's way off, so you just need to know where you stand. But ultimately, you're put in a really strong negotiation at this point, and absolutely love that situation where you pass property in and you are negotiating one-on-one with the owner. The biggest advantage being that the agent really wants to get the deal done because they've already penciled the commission in on their monthly sales board because it was an auction with a set date. But also the owner is, they were planning on selling on the day as well. They really would like to get it done if possible, and they're feeling the pressure to get that done as well from a few different angles. So that added pressure helps you as a buyer. Okay, so that ends another episode of Property Ponderings. I hope it's given you a few small tips to be able to make some better buying decisions on your next property purchase and not be so afraid of auctions if that's you. Auctions might seem daunting, but with the right preparation and understanding, they can often assist buyers, and there are significant advantages, from transparency and reduced competition to opportunities for securing a good deal when pressure is on with the seller. If you want to discuss anything further from this podcast, or if you're wanting to get tailored buying or renovating advice, please feel free to contact me on 0400 122 081 or Craig at nicholbuyeradvisory.com.au. We'll chat again soon. Thank you. The information provided in this podcast is for general information purposes only and does not constitute financial, legal or professional advice. While we aim to provide accurate and up-to-date information, every property transaction and investment is unique. You should seek the advice of a qualified professional before making any financial decisions. The opinions expressed in this podcast are our own and are not a substitute for tailored advice from a financial advisor or a real estate professional. We encourage you to consult with a qualified expert who can address your specific needs and circumstances.